Welcome to the 23rd class of Haiti, the most important country in the world. You saw the title right. America's Crimes Against Haiti, Part One. I don't know if I'm going to call it that. I am trying to bring you in. It's maybe a little bit of a spicier topic than our more recent discussions of land division and labor laws. But we're still going to be working our way through the very, very complicated 19th century in Haiti, all the different ways that leaders took power, how they were used, and we will indeed be talking a lot about the United States and bird poop. So much bird poop. What does it all have to do? Let's watch the video and find out, or let's go to the PowerPoint and find out. All right, here we go. Continue to share. Students and friends, I am Professor Sky. My name is perhaps known to you. I have undertaken to teach about Haiti. I want curiosity and a thirst for complex understanding to reign in this class. I am working to help that happen. Unite yourselves, students, and learn with me for the same cause. So today's class, I encourage you to take notes. Obviously, I can't force you to, but online learning is often very passive, which does not lead to absorption of information. So just taking notes might help. Every class I name for my students, this is going to be called États-Unis and bird poop, because États-Unis is the Haitian word for America. États-Unis is how you say it in French, United States, and so that just became États-Unis. As always, or not as always, but as often, the primary source for today's class comes from the book Haiti, the Aftershocks of History by Laurent Dubois. There he is folding his arms in a very, very green shirt. Thank you, Professeur Dubois. So today we'll be talking about États-Unis and bird poop, the Vatican, Soulouque, the civilizing mission, and Vodu. So I'm going to start off class tomorrow. Sometimes I record before I do my class. Sometimes I record after. So I'm going to ask them to summarize what we did. This is also, maybe you're a teacher and you want to teach this stuff. Take all my materials. As a matter of fact, you can email me, professorskybusiness@gmail.com. I'll send you all my reading questions if you want them. Okay. I'll share all this stuff with anybody who wants to teach about Haiti. But I am going to ask them. And so I'll just go through the answers to these questions for you. I'm going to be releasing this video at the exact same time that I teach. So, what injustices was Akau combating? Well, Akau was this figure who wore a straw hat and bare feet and helped to lead a revolution. And he was combating the wealth inequality, the inequality between the people in the city and the people in the country, the uneven taxation, the general poverty and ignoring of the people by the elites. What president did he topple? My students are all going to say Boyer, which isn't quite accurate. It's Rivière, but that's fine. Riviere's named the president he toppled. How did the Piquet Revolution conceive of race? So he led what was called the Piquet Revolution because they just used sharpened sticks. It considered race along the lines of class. So it said that anybody who was black, rich, and educated was not black, and anybody who was not black but was poor and uneducated was black. It was a fascinating way of conceiving of race in different terms, really purely along class lines. Because at this time, one of the greatest crimes was that the education level was so low. See, the thing was, Boyer, who was the president before Rivière, he had 1% of the state's funds going to education. So he kept the people poor and he kept them uneducated. And then when Rivière arrived and there were still protests, he still put them down in brutal ways. He was basically the same as the old boss. Why were the peasants so upset? For reasons I just said. How did this revolution succeed? How did it fail? It succeeded in the way that Dumel and Rivière were exiled to Jamaica, but it failed because a puppet of the elite was put into power to make sure the status quo was not changed. Okay, so this is going to be, Haiti and the United States grew up together. This is a line from the book, which I think is a very useful way of thinking about it. And I'm going to ask my students to explain what that means, and then I'm just going to tell them how. Obviously, the two, the two decolonized countries in the Western Hemisphere in the 18th century, right? That's who Haiti and America were. There will 100% be an essay question on the final about the United States and its history with Haiti, but don't put that up on the board, Sky. What if they read it? That's one of my little tricks I like to do. So you can have kind of a timeline of Haiti and the States as is given in the book. As an example, the trade was great for New England before the American Revolution, right? It was a great place to trade. And even after the revolution, the trade was excellent. And I think I'm going to ask that, 1/3 of the coffee that was in America came from Haiti, and it was one of the top 10 trading partners with the United States. And you might be saying, why? Well, one of the reasons why is it's very close by and they have a lot lower taxes, right? They don't have to go all the way across the ocean, and there's lower imports, and they had kind of a special relationship, often working around colonial powers, often working around England, France, and Spain. Really, Haiti and America in a better world would just be two brothers, just working together, or two siblings, if we want to degenerate, working together to make the new world a great place. Even Toussaint got most of his weapons from the United States, very close by, and Lord knows we are a good source of guns. But then we get, so I'm recording this in Monroe County. That's the county where I live. I live at one side and I teach at the other side of Monroe County in New York, Western New York. And Monroe's an interesting character in this class because Boyer was desperate to be recognized by the United States. Maybe you haven't been paying attention. Maybe you forget. Being recognized is crucial for Haiti for it to be a real state. Up until 1825, France did not recognize Haiti. Okay, so that meant that Haiti was neither a colony nor an independent state. How confusing. They were essentially non-people on the global stage. How can you form a nation when you are not even seen by the rest of the world? That's the difficulty. So their job was to get recognized. Boyer signed the infinite indemnity, uh, took out a loan to pay the fee to pay France back for ending slavery of themselves. Right? That's what happened. That was how they bought their visibility from France. But that didn't happen in America. America did not just jump right on board. Part of the reason why America didn't recognize Haiti was because it didn't want to annoy France. And then France does it, and they say, please recognize, please help, says Boyer, because they desperately need American support, American recognition. Writes a beautiful letter to James Monroe talking about how these two countries came together and how they are so similar. And James Monroe said, not to be answered. Not to be answered. Here, Monroe's term ends in 1825. So this is the exact moment where Haiti needs to be recognized by both France and by America, powers on each side of the continent. And it should work out because the Monroe Doctrine was just signed. And maybe you don't remember high school history. Okay, the Monroe Doctrine was this really important thing that President Monroe put forth. Which, look at this image. This defines it pretty well, the way that America sees itself, the way it sees the old world to the left and the new world to the right. America for Americans, signed Uncle Sam. The Monroe Doctrine, this is from Wikipedia, obviously, was the United States policy of opposing European colonialism in Americas beginning in 1823. It stated that further efforts by European nations to take control of any independent state in the North or South America would be viewed as manifestation of an unfriendly disposition towards the United States. At the same time, the doctrine noted that U.S. would recognize and not interfere with existing European colonies nor meddle in the internal concerns of European countries. So, does Haiti not fit into this whole question here? Haiti is obviously already freed. They need recognition. They need to be respected. But what was America's response? Not a colony, not independent. Do not respond. So the Monroe Doctrine was good for every single country in the New World except for one. It's always Haiti. It's always Haiti. Who is the punching bag of the world? Like, who always gets it worst? Who is always singled out? It's always Haiti. That's why this class is so important. If you don't understand that, if you don't understand that fundamentally it is white supremacy behind the reason why it is always Haiti, you just can't understand the world. It's always Haiti. Why? Why wouldn't they recognize Haiti? What did America not like about Haiti before 1860? France rec yep, where am I? France recognized Haiti in 1825. Why not the United States? Well, you can see on the image behind there because it already had slavery, because it still had slavery. So, as it said in the book, a quote from a politician: "The peace of 11 states in this union will not permit black ambassadors to parade through the country." There it is, white supremacy. That's why, because it was too much of a third rail. Now, it's fascinating is in pre Civil War America, Haiti was a popular topic. There was a gag rule which prevented discussion of slavery in America for a period of time. And do you know what they did instead? They talked about Haiti. They talked about whether or not we should recognize Haiti because they knew that when we're talking about Haiti, we're talking about America, we're talking about racism. So abolitionists and anti-abolitionists, pro-slavery forces in America use Haiti as an example. So John Brown, as is pointed out, one of the reasons I love this book, John Brown, the great abolitionist, had the largest funeral in Haiti, despite the fact he'd never been there, because they understood that he was fighting for what they believe in. Abolitionists used Haiti as an example of the need for freedom and the end of slavery. And then pro slavery people took the relative poverty and the political instability of Haiti since its liberation as proof that slavery is good for people of African descent, actually. Please ignore all the context of the ways in which it is still being ignored by America, not allowed to exist on the global stage, and exploited consistently throughout all history. Oof, this is an ugly slide. These are just notes I took. Okay, I thought I took the slide out. Okay. Wendell Phillips, Louverture is better than Napoleon or Washington. Oh, yeah, that was in the book. He was a speaker at the time who made that very provocative point. Okay, I'll keep on moving. That's an ugly slide. It's at this point that we have to discuss Navassa, the very, very important little island. So I just discussed the first, well, one of the first tangible crimes of America against Haiti. All right, that is the refusal to acknowledge the inability to live up to its own promise of the Monroe Doctrine. But in 1857, there's a fight over this little teeny tiny, 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 teeny, teeny, tiny, tiny island called Navassa. Now, what was so special about this teeny, teeny, tiny, tiny island? You see where it is. Well, not much. People didn't live there. There wasn't a civilization there. It was a part of Haiti. It was a part of the nation of Haiti. It was in the Constitution, but people didn't really do much there. It was uninhabited, and the Haitian army couldn't protect it because it was weakened in 1857. But I haven't even told you like what's going on here. What's going why? Am I even talking about a little tiny uninhabited island in 1857? Well, because it's an island that the American government is going to take, is going to steal straight up gank from the Haitian government because it was too weak. But you still don't even understand why. Why would America take an uninhabited island that's basically just covered in birds? Well, these birds leave guano, which is a fancy word for bird poop. Bird poop, believe it or not, is a very valuable substance. Farmers need it. It is a great fertilizer. We have to feed everybody. We have to feed everybody. And this is a very valuable resource. So in 1856, America passes the Guano Islands Act. Any unclaimed island can be claimed. Of course, it's been owned since the 15th century by Saint-Domingue, but listen, sometimes people in power, sometimes powerful states, act with impunity. Sometimes they look at places, I don't know, in the Caribbean and decide that they can unilaterally declare war and take things from those places or destroy things in those places just by their whim. Because of their power, they have the right to do it. The Guano Act said that America was able to claim any uninhabited land or any unclaimed land. We saw claimed land and said, actually, it's unclaimed. Actually, we are going to take it. This is a crime. It is absolutely a crime. It was contested and it was lost. There was a revolt, but it's lost. It was a lost export. It could have been a source of income. It could have been a source of export for Haiti, but instead it is just completely gone. But don't worry, everybody. America gave it back. In the year, no, they didn't. They didn't give it back. We still have it. It's still American. That's a part of America that's closest to Haiti. If you're American out there, that feeling you're feeling, that should be shame. Sorry, I happen to really love the second Ace Ventura movie. And then we have the other major world power that would not recognize Haiti, which is the Vatican, which is kind of weird because Haiti was a super Catholic country. And remember, we're talking Catholic ever since Le Code Noir, it's been Catholic. We're talking ever since France colonized, it's been Catholic. Every leader has been Catholic. It's been a Catholic country. Of course, there's been some Vodu, which we'll talk about in a second, but it's pretty strange that the Vatican would not recognize it. Why? So I'm going to ask my students. A lot of it has to do with racism. A lot of it has to do with fear of the continuing presence of Vodu. And eventually, in the 19th century, they are going to recognize it. Which brings us to the curious case of Emperor Faustin Soulouque. Soulouque. Soulouque? I don't even know how his name is pronounced in Haitian Creole. It's hard to even pronounce in French. Soulouque is how I'd say it. So he was a black ex-slave. Okay, so he was around from before the revolution. He was president for 12 years, and he was supposed to be a puppet. The elites, the elite coloreds, thought he was not too bright, not too smart. So they thought he'd be a puppet. But he turned out to be a bad puppet. This was what's called a failed politique de doubleur. This is where he Pinocchioed himself into life. He was supposed to be a puppet. He was supposed to be a tool of the elite class, but instead he fired all the people who put him in power. They're like, this guy's so dumb. We'll make him president. They make him president. It's like, great, thank you. You're fired. That's pretty awesome. He killed the political elite. Maybe jail would have been better, but still declared himself emperor in 1849. Marx compared Napoleon III to Soulouque, which is an interesting comparison. I'm not going to get into it now, but oh hey, just hey little because you're watching. There's all this talk about the robbery of the Louvre, how they stole the crown jewels of France. Man, they just stole some stuff from Napoleon III. It's not that interesting. They stole the least interesting stuff from the Louvre. So as far as I'm concerned, they can keep it. Don't mess with the art. But you want to take Napoleon III's wife's crown? I spit on Napoleon III for that matter. All right. And it leads to this theme and this theory of Soulouquerie. Soulouquerie. It's a Soulouquerie. It's a way that Soulouque was described in the French and foreign press. Warning, some racist images are to follow. We're dealing with 19th century newspapers, so there's going to be lots of racist images to follow. And I'm going to be asking my students these questions. How did this image of Soulouque serve American and French and white supremacist interests? Images like this. This is the way that he is depicted. Always with these exaggerated features, often surrounded by monkeys. This is what they did. This is how they presented him as a savage, as stupid, as all of the stereotypes that one could possibly have of the Haitians. So my question to my students is, what does that serve? It helps to delegitimize Haitian independence. It helps to delegitimize a Black republic. It helps to delegitimize Haiti in general. Delegitimizing Haiti is a benefit to all white supremacist systems. That's part of what makes Haiti such an important country. Its successes and its failures have consistently been used as a referendum on the meaning and value of white supremacy. Man, these are just terrible. Sorry to share all these with you. They're just terrible. But that was just in France. Fortunately, in America, like the New York Herald, we don't. This is what it said in the New York Herald. Big black, I'm not going to say that. The emperor himself I'm not going to say that. Population of Haiti with very hostile feelings towards the United States should be licked into good behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now entering the paternalism. There's patriarchy and there's paternalism. We are now entering the paternalist state of America, where it sees itself as a grand civilizing force. It sees itself with nobility, acting in these ways of looking down on people like Soulouque, looking down on black republics, as you saw what they called, you saw the N-words that's written in the newspaper, okay? We're talking the New York Herald. We're not talking. How did this serve American interests? Hopefully that's clear. A shockingly racist image from about 100 years ago. 100 years ago is not that long. But this is the way America saw itself in what is called the civilizing mission. This is the way that America saw itself. It saw itself as a stern teacher. It saw itself as an adult. And it saw everyone else who was not white, whether they from Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Philippines, Cuba, I assume that's Haiti cleaning the window in the back, as being disobedient, unintelligent children, while the white children in the back are presented as studious and industrious, like California, Texas, and Arizona. The representative of the native doesn't has his book upside down, trying to indicate his ignorance. The concept of a civilizing mission is crucial in understanding the ways in which America has mistreated the world, the way in which Europe mistreated. Just 1 second. The civilizing mission. It wasn't. America didn't invent the civilizing mission. Europe invented the civilizing mission as a way to justify their colonial ambitions in Africa and Asia and in Americas, right? That's what we did. That's what the Europeans did. They just said, oh, they're also savage and not Christian, so we're going to take over, take all their stuff, but then we'll civilize them. So they get to have civilization. So that'll be good for them. America did not invent the civilizing mission. But we are and have been for a good more than a century the primary proponents of this kind of thinking, as is seen quite often in Haiti. The key to civilizing missions is at the heart of them is always self-interest. It is never about actually helping people. It is always about extracting what you can from them in the name of civilization. So they think about bringing more schools, having, and this is, by the way, how the Catholic priests feel as well. Part of the reason why the Catholic priests did not want to associate with Haiti, because there is too much nakedness. There's too much plaçage, where one man can have multiple wives. Not exactly the same thing as wives, but um, can have children by multiple women. And absolutely, positively, no, no, no Vodu. Absolutely no Vodu. Which leads to a president like Geoffroy. Geoffroy is the next president that we're going to touch on briefly. He's an interesting figure because he followed Soulouque and he moved power back to the colored elites. There's always these divides between the city, the country, the rich, the poor, the blacks, the coloreds. He lessened the impact of the army. He encouraged more American migration. And for the purposes of this class and the next class I'm going to be teaching, he waged war on voodoo or Vodu. 1 second. I need to animate this slide. You can watch me while I animate this slide so that it looks nicer for my students tomorrow. Okay, gonna go here. This is how I teach. I really wish professors knew the value of animated slides. It makes things a lot better. Waged war on Vodu. Boyer outlawed Vodu, which, by the way, is the proper way to refer to Haitian voodoo, as a voodoo can be seen, you'll be learning about this, can be seen as a subset, can be as a kind of voodoo religion, but the actual proper term for Haitian voodoo is voodoo, pronounced like that. Boyer outlawed it in the 1835 penal code, specifically mentioned zombies. We will be talking about zombies in this class. And Geoffroy actually enforces the repression of Voodoo, which is why I've chosen now to bring up the question of and to teach about Voodoo, and Vodu. I'm going to be asking my students. They're going to be watching two documentaries, 1982 documentary that is, as far as I know, not available on YouTube, and then a YouTube video by Religion for Breakfast, which came out fairly recently, and is a really good kind of overview. There's also going to be some readers, some work on there, and that's going to be the next class. So feel free to join me if you want to learn more about this religion and the way that it is seen, the way this new world religion is perceived of and appreciated and denigrated and used as an excuse to alienate and hurt the people who might practice it. All right. Until next time, thank you for watching, and there's the camera.